Hi there. Can you all hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up if you
Yes.
can hear me? Because you're
Yes.
all on mute. Thumbs up? Great. Okay. I'll assume that you can hear me. I don't know that I have the best signal. Alex will let me know if I can't be heard. And I'll try to repeat if I have to. But first of all, I would like to thank particularly Alex and Rory and Amy and Jen and the IT crew for all of their help in putting this together today. As you can imagine, this is the first time we've ever done anything quite like this before. But I have to say, it is very heartening to me to see all of you on the screen, or at least a page of you at a time on the screen. Even just staring at pictures of all of you, it's hard. It's a very heartening community experience. So I want to welcome you all the staff today. I regret that the first time we're getting together since we've closed the museum is to mark our collective loss. We intended to actually make a meeting this week as a community to talk more generally, but every day seems to bring a new set of unsettling circumstances. We have a few board members with us today, and Karen Leigh Toledano, Ron's girlfriend, has joined us as well. Thank you, Karen, for being here with us. We're so sorry for your loss. We were hoping also today that Ron's daughters, Cassandra and Alexa, could join us, as well as his brother Gary, but they were unable to, so we are recording this event for them so that they will be able to see it in the future. Sadly, many times you learn more specifics about a person after they are gone, which is a reminder to make the most of every relationship every day. Karen shared that Ron was not really a music person, but he liked classical music. In fact, they were supposed to attend a concert several weeks ago that had to be canceled due to the coronavirus. The musical works we are playing today were two that Ron especially enjoyed. Appropriately, what you just heard was a movement from Vivaldi's Spring. As you know, I prefer, particularly when talking to all of you, the staff, to talk extemporaneously. But when I feel my emotions might get the better of me, I prefer to read my remarks, so forgive me. I also am very grateful to so many people who sent comments to me, which I've tried to incorporate here today, and I want to be able to get them as much as possible verbatim. This has been a very dark time, brought home to all of us at the Whitney by the untimely loss of Ron Burrell. And indeed, this has been a very strange period of deaths. I and many of you have lost family and friends, some due to corona, others not. It's as if the overwhelming burden of this moment has caused so many people, especially the old and the ill, to slip away. I'll ask if we can just have a moment in silence in recognition of Ron and the others who have departed our lives. Thank you. The passing of Ron occurs against the backdrop of other losses. All of us have lost a measure of our freedom, freedom of movement, and most difficult, the freedom to be with others, to come together for collective experience, collective joy, and collective mourning. Last week, we also sadly experienced a loss of jobs, which represents a loss of opportunity and perhaps feelings of self-worth. Unlike Ron, whose loss is final, these individuals will eventually have other opportunities, hopefully many of them at the Whitney. So forgive me for making a brief digression to say a few words about the 76 colleagues who left last week. These were our colleagues, people with whom we work side by side every day, not budget lines on a spreadsheet. We lost individuals of great and diverse experiences, individuals of great enthusiasm, great promise, great devotion, and individuals, many of whom were young and in their first jobs with great aspirations. Andes, a visitor service assistant, for example, was an artist who studied at the Art Institute of Chicago. She had just been promoted in February. Angie, also a visitor services assistant, had studied anthropology and was thrilled to share her enthusiasm for contemporary art with visitors. Charles, a security supervisor, was a 25-year veteran of the New York Police Department who retired as lieutenant and is the proud father of daughter Jenna, a high school soccer player. Charlotte, a porter who had been laid off from another job early in the week, but said he was grateful for the severance the Whitney provided and for hearing personally from his supervisor, as opposed to just receiving a letter. For me, all of these various losses make me appreciate family, friends, and colleagues all the more. The portrait of Ron Burrell I share with you now is appropriately a collective portrait, a portrait forged by connections, my words entwined with the words of many others at the Whitney. Ron was a connector, a networker. He knew everybody on staff better than most since he was not tethered to a desk. He was everywhere, all the time. He was always on the move. Peter Scott most often remembers him on the way to or from the break room getting his favorite snack. As we in administration know, he loved snacks because he gravitated to our counter with snacks every time he came into the room. I saw Ron in the hallways, in elevators, the lobby, and in everyone's offices. Where was his office? He was his own office. He told Eunice Lee that he lived at the Whitney and had a secret apartment on site. Does anybody know where it is? She used to see him on late nights in the office, and he'd always encourage her to go home, even though she knew he was planning on staying longer. More often than not, Ron was perched over someone's desk, puzzling a problem, looking a bit perplexed, but nonplussed. And as Jen Heslin noticed, without an iota of smugness. As you can all imagine, I, Adam, am rather hopeless with technology. When I had a problem, he would look at me with his sweet, knowing smile, probably thinking, here we go again, but he never rolled his eyes, at least not that I knew of. I was relieved to recently learn from Jed Levithal that he said he didn't even like computers. Now I understand why my technological dysfunction was acceptable. He was quite the analyst and technician. In fact, his all too frequent advice to favorite customers like Jen Heslin and Chrissy Isles was, did you save it? Have you tried turning it off and back on again? Technical genius. As Jen further commented, he would pull all of you out of the train running through your head and walk you through a problem. As everyone has commented, Ron was soft-spoken, gentle, kind, and oh so patient, and tolerant of our collective lack of technical prowess. He was always willing, as Stephanie Adams said, to solve our nagging, stressful, inevitable, and ongoing computer issues. Indeed, when she spoke to him just days ago, for the second time in 2 days, to say she was having trouble, yet again, accessing documents from home, she apologized, and he said, Steph, that's what we're here for. We want you to be able to work from home. Don't ever hesitate to reach out. Richard Blows wrote, anytime we had an impossible project, we would bring Ron in, not just for his expertise, but also we knew we could keep a goal in mind together and at the same time have a great time. He loved his IT very, very much, wrote Bernadette. Ron and Bernadette. Bernadette and Ron were quite the team. He with his shy smile, she with her radiant grin. He was her beloved IT partner. They joined the department almost at the same time in 2001. Bernadette said that he was a great instructor and taught them all a range of approaches to solving problems. Randy, another IT sibling, said, Ron will always be remembered as a free-spirited and bubbly individual. Whenever you needed to solve a problem, just ask Ron and he would figure it out. He was the Tony Stark of the Whitney who will be truly missed. As Song, one of his dear IT family members, very movingly wrote, he sat next to me for 19 years in 945 Madison Avenue at the Breuer Building, 230 Park Avenue South, and in this new building. We mostly talked a lot about work. We knew what we needed from each other through eye contact. Now the fact that the seat next to me is empty makes me feel very heartbroken. Although he is gone physically, he is always sitting next to me in my heart, forever. Peter, the patriarch of the IT family, will share his thoughts later on, so he will have a full chance to express himself. Ron was forever youthful, with a beautiful baby face. He was always amused that I used to comment on his changes of appearance. Beard, no beard. Long hair, short hair. The nearly 2 decades that Ron and I have spent together, we have watched each other gain and lose weight and get older. As Heather Cox, with her artist's keen eye, observed, I love watching the gray come into his hair. He wore it well. And these little reminders that time is passing. It is difficult to comprehend that he's gone. Despite the fact that he lived at the Whitney, he had a life outside the museum. His great passion was bowling, which he did every Sunday. I don't know how many of you knew that. According to Heather, he was a kick-ass bowler, and there was chatter about starting a Whitney bowling team. I will remind all of you, it's never too late. Justin affirmed that Ron was a charter member of the Whitney Houstons in 2011. Justin said that he played center field. He was a born outfielder. Justin pointed out there was just too much action on the infield for him. He was also a great hitter. He would always bat third or fourth so that he could drive the runs home. Ron was always terribly disappointed that he injured his knee the first season and frustrated that Justin wouldn't let him come back in without a doctor's note. Above all, he loved and was proud of his 2 daughters, Cassandra and Alexa. As Emily Russell emphasized at the ritual catch-up about his daughters each summer, boy, did he love them. That was clear. He was a great father, as Jen Heslin said. He applied the same calm logic that he displayed at work to help his daughter decide between Brown University and Youngstown State University, where she's studying engineering. He encouraged her to take risks and pursue her passion. Clearly, the Whitney ethos of risk-taking and passion really rubbed off on him. As Jen Leventhal affirmed, to which all no doubt would agree, Ron had a big heart and was always quick to throw his arm around you and ask you how you were doing. I'll always remember him at staff parties, floating easily between groups of people, able to talk with and relate to colleagues across every single department. Ron's last day in the office was March 13th. He spent the last few weeks tending to Citrix from home to improve our remote access. He had a tremendous sense of duty and responsibility to the team and to everyone on the Whitney staff. His girlfriend, Karen, said to me the other night that she was so anxious to get to the hospital after he died to get his phone so that she would know who to call at the museum. She said that Ron never would want anyone at the Whitney to think that he was letting them down. We hope and we trust that he knew how much he was loved and respected and appreciated by all of us. The tributes from the staff this morning were not a stream, but a torrent, and a mighty one at that, coming from all departments. Lisa Dowd offered, he was interested in you as a person. I will miss his easy way. Christine Foner commented that he is a sweetheart who is always cheerful and leaves a room with more air in it. And Barbara Haskell said, his grace and gentle kindness were reassuring. They made the world seem manageable and humane. Carrie Springer shared that Ron has been at the heart of my sense of who and what the Whitney is. Intelligent, kind, generous. He was a bright light. Easy, air, and light. These are the right words to describe our Ron. His demeanor, his grace, his spirit. Easy, air, and light. This spring, in memory of Ron Burrell, the wonderful and beloved man who helped link us literally and metaphorically to one another, we will acquire a work of art, linking the 2 things that make the Whitney, its staff and its art. Thank you all for being here with us this afternoon. This is a hard time, but I hope that the sense of springtime and the sense of rebirth and the coming of Passover and Easter give us something positive to look forward to. I'd like to pass it on now to Peter Gus to add some words about Ron as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, very much. And hello, everybody. Before I speak about Ron, I'd like to take a minute to talk about the IT department that he served so well for so long and how we work as a team. Although each of us have different skills, we find our individual responsibilities by kind of oozing around the problem, and we fill in each other's gaps. We pick up a problem or a responsibility when we're the best person to take that on. And the team, like, I think of it like yin and yang, curve around each other and does what needs to be done, if that makes any sense. That's one reason it will be so hard to find someone to take Ron's place. You know, who can we find someone who will ooze around with the rest of us? Whenever I write my annual self-review, I write mostly about the accomplishments of the whole IT department during the past year. And when I write the reviews for my staff, I start with a summary of what we've all accomplished together before I point out the individual accomplishments. And that's because we really do work as a team. And it's oozy and it's amorphous, but it's a true thing. And the IT team has been together for a long time. Randy's been here 8 years. It's 15 and a half years for me. Ron came to the museum in 2001, and Sang and Bernadette have been here since 1999. And the IT team, for me, it's a once in a lifetime group. It's maybe a kind of a family. Ron would tease Randy like a loving older brother, and he'd squabble with Bernadette like an old and trusted friend, and he would work with Sang on the most difficult technical issues that the whole museum relies on. And for me, Ron was always someone to bounce ideas off of and to get advice from because of his vast experience, and to show things that I'd learned or maybe I just found out. In the IT department, we say good morning to each other every morning, and we say good night to each other when we leave every night, every day. And we work slightly different shifts to increase our support hours. Ron always comes in last, and when I leave, usually after everyone else but him, I would stop and talk to him before saying goodnight. And maybe we talk about the work of the day, but maybe we talk about food or technology or travel, things that we shared an interest in. Ron was a larger than life character. He was warm and gracious, but he could also be cantankerous. And he said no to me a lot. He said no to me more than everybody else in IT put together. And we'd get into arguments. And even though IT has our own space, it's not really soundproof. And I'm sure that sometimes the people outside in digital media or marketing communications got an earful. But anyway, he'd say no, and I'd say yes, and he'd say no, and I'd say yes, over and over again. But I knew that if he was obstinate, it was usually for a good reason. And after a round of yeses and nos, I'd go back into my office and I'd think about the problem and why he was so resistant. And often it caused me to change my mind, often but not always. And when I'd insist on something, Ron would generally rethink it and come to me to say that he agreed, or he'd found another way to do it, a better way. So he had such a wide range of knowledge about almost anything, and he certainly had opinions about absolutely everything. Now, everyone in the IT department wears a lot of hats because we're such a small department with so much to do. And I think that Ron wore so many hats, he was like a hat store. You know, and the list of things he was primarily responsible for is amazing, including the Citrix platform that's allowing all of us to work during this crisis time, and VMware that runs every application at the Whitney, and all of our printers and all of our Macs and all of our servers and the email system. And you know, he was also physically very strong. And when we had to muscle hardware like huge roll printers or those damned signage monitors, I'd have to wait until Ron was available because he could lift twice what I could lift. But things keep moving on, and the museum needs us, and it needs our help on things. And that's good for us, me and IT, to have something to do, to keep busy, to work on the everyday projects and the jobs that we all share together. And in a way, I think it's lucky that we're all at home right now instead of at the museum because I couldn't imagine going into IT and seeing Ron's empty desk in the back of the room. We'll have to do that eventually, but we don't have to do it today. And some days, sitting in my office, I'd hear Ron grousing about something on the far side of the room, implying maybe that he could get a better job somewhere else. And, you know, I have ears like a bat, so I would spring away from my desk like a gazelle, and I'd run out into the IT area, and I'd tell him, and I'd tell all of them, that the deal is that I go first. I'm the oldest, and no one is allowed to quit until I retire, and I'm in no hurry to leave. So we all have to stay together. That's the rule. Well, finally, I'd just like to thank everybody, so many people, like Adam said, who sent messages of sympathy and love to the IT department on behalf of all of us from the bottom of our hearts. And so many of these messages talked about our loss to the IT team because we've been together so long and worked so closely. But as I read these, it's plain to me that the senders are mourning their own loss of someone who is dear to them. And so I want to give my deepest sympathies to everyone in the museum on the loss of Ron Burrell. So thank you, and now I'd like to hand this over to Amy Roth.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, as he was for so many of you, Ron was my friend too. And I am going to read from a prepared script because I'm definitely not going to hold my emotions in check. Ron started at the Whitney just 6 months before I did, and just before, and in my case, just after 9/11. I got to know Ron early on in the same way we all got to know Ron. When my computer had issues and something broke and I couldn't figure it out, something really simple, really basic, it was probably laughable. I called IT and Ron would come. In our early days, 18 years ago, the Whitney was very different. Some of you were there, many of you were not. The Whitney was not fancy. It was scrappy. We on staff sometimes felt like we were holding the whole place together with staples and paper clips. Ron and I used to joke about this all the time. We would laugh our heads off about some of the crazy projects we were both working on, all just to make the Whitney a better place. But even though we would laugh and joke and sometimes poke fun and sometimes blow off steam and, sorry Adam, sometimes roll our eyes, we both loved the Whitney. And when our staff moved from Madison Avenue and scattered to different offices, we stayed close. Ron would come visit, we would hang out. Sometimes we would go get drinks with our other Whitney friends, some of whom are still on staff. We would joke around and laugh a lot. The Whitney we all know today was a distant dream. For us, we were in the present, and being in the present meant our friends on staff, still holding the place together with staples and paper clips. And when we didn't know what to do or how to fix it, we would all follow Ron's wise advice and we would restart our computers. When we moved into 99G, we couldn't believe how far we'd come, the scrappy Whitney and now this. Ron and I sat not too far from each other on the 4th floor, and we would meet up in the same spot at least once a day. Our floor mates know what I'm talking about because you'd see us there or you'd hear us there every day, either right outside Gina Rogak's office or a little further towards the intersection in the 4th floor bathrooms. And we'd be talking, catching up, and laughing our heads off again. Sometimes we'd talk about work or what we were having for lunch and snacks, of course. But most always we would talk about sports. Me gently or not so gently taunting his New York Giants and their losing ways. We would talk Eli Manning, the Patriots, boo, his hated Eagles, double boo, his beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. We'd go season by season with our sports banter, with June and July being the worst months of the entire year because hockey and basketball seasons were over and preseason football had not yet begun. Bernadette would join us sometimes, and we would all cackle together hysterically. She thought we were both crazy. Sometimes others would join in too, but Ron and I would outlast everyone. until our sports talk fix was thoroughly indulged. And for the past 5 years at 99G, these water cooler talks with Ron in the hallway were often the highlight of my days. When we didn't talk sports, or sometimes interwoven in our sports talk, we would talk about our kids, my budding little sports fans, Ron's tried but failed attempt to convert his own girls into proper football couch potatoes. When my two boys saw Ron at the holiday party in December, he quizzed them. Who do you like, Giants or Eagles? My other son, who's 8 and he's a diplomat, said to Ron, both. And Ron pressed him further, hinting that he should side with his beloved Giants. Okay, Giants, my son agreed, and my other son, who's 6, shot back, go Eagles. And Ron said, boo. And we all laughed hysterically. Ron loved kids, and he loved talking about his daughters, of whom he was always just so proud. The last time I saw Ron was Friday evening, March 13th, when we were both last in the office. We met not in our usual spot, but in the IT office. I'd gone in to check on the team and to say thanks for their incredible work, getting our entire staff set up to remote work for who knew how long. Ron and I joked about being stuck at home with all sports canceled. We threw up our hands together and bemoaned this terrible situation that we found ourselves in, having to watch only Netflix, and we agreed that at least we had the NFL Network reruns. Words really can't describe the grief that I and we all feel in losing our friend Ron. It is surreal and impossible. He was an amazing colleague and a downright good guy. For me, he was synonymous with the Whitney, friendly, kind, caring, lighthearted yet serious, passionate, intense, sometimes argumentative, and true. He made my days at work better, more fun, more funny, and worth coming to work for, even and especially during some of the toughest times over the past nearly 20 years. I can't imagine the Whitney without Ron. None of us can. And the last thing I'll say is we love you, Ron, and we will miss you terribly. Thank you. I think Justin wants to say a few words as well.
Thanks, Amy. Hi, everybody. Ron's girlfriend, Karen, let us know that the song Psalm 62 by Aaron Keyes was meaningful to him, so that you can better appreciate the beautiful words of this song, which is based off of a passage in the Bible. I will recite them to you. My soul finds rest in God alone, my rock and my salvation, a fortress strong against my foes, and I will not be shaken. Though lips may bless and hearts may curse, and lies like arrows pierce me, I'll fix my heart on righteousness. I'll look to him who hears me. Oh, praise him, hallelujah, my delight and my reward, everlasting, never failing, my Redeemer, my God. Find rest, my soul, in God alone, amid the world's temptations. When evil seeks to take a hold, I'll cling to my salvation. Though riches come and riches go, don't set your heart upon them. The fields of hope in which I sow are harvested in heaven. I'll set my gaze on God alone and trust in him completely. With every day pour out my soul, and he will prove his mercy. Though life is but a fleeting breath, a sigh too brief to measure, my King has crushed the curse of death, and I am his forever. Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us here today. I look forward to the next time that we're together, hopefully in person, but perhaps on the screen, that it's a happier moment. But let us be strengthened by the fact that we're all together, even virtually, and that it could only happen virtually because of Ron and Peter and Randy and Bernadette and Song. Thank you all. Let us never forget what all of you do, and I don't mean just the IT department, every single day that you contribute to make the Whitney a place that I hope you all feel is as special as I do. Tonight is the first night of Passover. Ironically, it is the holiday when the Jews note the plagues cast on the Egyptians during the Exodus. One of the songs we traditionally sing, which children learn, is called Dayenu. And Dayenu means literally, it would have been enough. In the case of Ron Burrell, it was far, far from enough. Let us always hold them in our hearts forever and ever. Much love to you, and I wish you all have good holidays. Thank you.
Adam? Adam?
Yes?
Is it possible
Are you there, Karen?
Yeah, I was
Yes,
going to ask,
please
is
do.
it possible for Karen to say something? And there's also someone else here outside of the Whitney family who knew him well.
Oh, we'd love that. We would love that. Thank you. Alex, is this something you can do? I need
Karen?
Ron right now. That's my problem.
We're on it.
I have no
We're on
one
it.
to tell me what to do. Debbie.
Karen, your microphone is live if you'd like to speak.
Yeah. Just would like to thank everybody for doing this for him. Honestly, I feel so envious of all of you because I never had the chance to get him that long. We were just recently, so it left me both lost and confused. But I knew him way back 3 years ago, and I knew his people, and I kind of see how he gravitates with people, and people just really love him. Everything from Adam and Peter said about Ron and Amy, if I got the name right, everything, all of it is true, and witnesses too with him. And I'm just so thankful you made this possible, because I don't want him to feel that he left this world alone and valued. So thank you so much. Thank you to Hillary, who were so kind to me, comforting words. And thank you to Peter too. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, everyone. Very few of you know me. My name is Michael McDonald. Well, Bernadette has met me. I just want to, it's hard for me to process right now. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to boast. I've known Ron for 33 years. We were best friends. There were times where we'd separate, but we would always come back together. And I just want to say that everything that has been said here has been absolutely true. When Ron and I first met, we were both working together at Roosevelt Field Mall. We were selling computers, not gaming software, but software. A lot of it was games. It was the early PCs invading the home days, Commodore 64, Amiga, and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty neat. It was an exciting time. I was in college, and you know, from the start, we just got along. There are very few people who I feel that I vibe with that are, in my space. And Ron was one of the few people. He was very intelligent, very argumentative. But that was just him. You know, he wanted to prove a point. And I was kind of the same person. So we'd bump heads at times over things and still try to convince each other who was right or was wrong, or, you know, he'd be willing to give in, I'd be willing to give in. So it was funny to hear his boss say those things, because that is exactly the person he is. But he was a very caring, very giving person. And I hope that, you know, just the same way that he had a very positive influence on my life, that he's done the same for all of you. To me, he was, again, my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. I was the best man at his wedding. We've always been close. We've always continued to talk. I haven't had a chance to speak to Karen, but I did, I guess, what was it, maybe two weeks ago, I had spoken to him on the phone, and she was there with him, and he was telling me about her. And I could tell he was happy. He was in a good place. You know, we've always been in contact with each other. So, you know, and to see this gathering here with all these people, all these friends, you know, I know he's had a good life. And, you know, again, I feel the same pain. He was the first person, actually, I was going to say, he was the first person to call me on 9/11. I don't know if he ever told you, he had a friend that worked in the tower. I worked for Marshall McLennan. I'm a graphic designer, also a computer head, and I did a lot of tech work for them as well. So that's why I think Ron and I vibe so much. But that day when 9/11 happened, and I just happened to get there, and the building's on fire, and I could see the planes hit my floor. All of a sudden in my pocket, my phone rings. I pick up the phone, and it's Ron, and he's asking me, he can't believe. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you picked up the phone." And telling me, what's wrong? And he's saying, "Well, I saw it. I saw the plane hit in the building." And, you know, the fact that he was able to get through when everyone else could not call me, could not reach me, my fiance, who's now my wife, she couldn't even reach me. My brother couldn't reach me on the phone, but Ron was able to get through. And, you know, it just showed me how much he cared. And I'm sure he had the same care for all of you. And again, I just want to thank you for a wonderful memorial, because it still hasn't sunk in to me. It's very hard. I feel like it's after 9/11, when I lost a lot of people, I'm the lone survivor of that department. And this time I don't have Ron to call me and console me. So I want to thank you all for being in Ron's life. And I hope he's done for you what he had done for me in my life. God bless you all.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Oh, and one more thing. And I don't think Karen knows this. He was a music lover.
Nah.
I know about him and classical music, because again, like I said, I've known him a long time, and he was big on high fidelity, and he had a little CD, well, not a little, a big old school CD recorder where he'd burn his music onto. But if you didn't know, if he didn't tell you, he was a big Prince fan. So I don't know if anybody knows that, but I thought I would just reveal that little thing. I'm not trying to embarrass him in any way, but he was a big Prince fan. He was a fun guy to hang out with. You guys know this because you've hung out with him. You know, we used to, again, him hang out with me and a bunch of other friends, and he was a good party person. He was just a good person, man. I just can't say enough about him, but I don't want to, you know, run on and on and on. I just wanted to, you know, just reveal that he enjoyed music, and if you look through his music collection, you'll probably see some interesting things in there. So again, God bless everyone.
Thank you. And I think we should all go and listen to Purple Rain right now in honor of Ron. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much, Karen. Be well.